One Piece chapter 1123 was really great in my opinion. It seems like the Egghead arc, an arc I've been reading for almost 2 years of my actual life, is seemingly coming to an end, and it revealed one of the craziest things ever in One Piece in my opinion. Our first glimpse into how the Void Century could have actually been achieved. And I do mean what could have caused it, because I believe that everything that happened with Vegapunk erasing his memories and leaving a note for himself from the past is exactly what happened with the Void Century in the present. Make sure to subscribe and let's get right into it. So let's talk about parallels. Oda is an author that does a lot of parallels, whether it's from a pre to post time skip arc or something within the same section of the story, and have us remember the past while also having a newfound perspective through these new events of what could happen in the future. It's what allows One Piece to be really satisfying on a reread and in the present at the exact same time. It makes us reflect on the journey to get to the One Piece and what makes the journey being so long feel all the more worthwhile. And I think one of the most important arcs to discuss in this matter is Dressrosa. Doflamingo was the guy who was responsible for Punk Hazard, and Punk Hazard and Egghead, both being Vegapunk locations, obviously have connections, but we don't really need to get into that here. Doflamingo was the big bad puppet master of this arc, and of course, Emu, being the head of the group that Doflamingo is from, is the big bad puppet master of the world, controlling Vegapunk, not a lackey of Vegapunk like Caesar Clown. And being the inquisitive character that he is, he's desperate to learn more, but knows that the closer he gets, the closer he is to dying. And he does know that he's going to die because he finds out that York sold him out to the Celestial Dragons. He realizes that he was too prideful and split himself into different personalities, even the bad ones, and that in turn was what got rid of him in the end. And Vegapunk, Shaka, and Pythagoras all agree to work together to make some plan to ensure that the world knows the information they need to know, but in order to do this and make it look like they know nothing about York's ulterior motives, they have to brainwash themselves and erase their memories of what happened. Now, I've made videos before talking about the importance of memory in One Piece, specifically this video here about Kuma and Sindri from Thriller Bark, because I think this is a very important theme in One Piece, how memories, our inherited will, are the power systems of the story. It's a lot, I'm not going to describe it all here. The erasure of one's own memory in order to protect the world is something really noble here. However, I think that Oda is absolutely going to use this Chekhov's gun and spin it to be the cause of the Void Century itself. Now, we've seen memory being erased as a very prominent plot point in Dressrosa through Sugar's Hobi Hobi no Mi and Usopp forgetting that Robin existed. This was a really interesting scene in my opinion because it allowed Usopp to revert to who he used to be, yet he still came out on top when people needed him. I love Usopp and Robin, so obviously I had a bias here, but it's something that I think is important because it's undercut to have this sort of gimmick of the toys and the forgetting of the memory because of the toys. In reality, I feel as though this memory erasure power is so powerful if it was used on a widespread scale. What in the world could have had an ability similar that could affect everyone for 100 years? Well, to put it simply, Emu in the past. We know that Egghead, the island of the future, is actually the island of the past, with all of these inventions on Egghead being things from thousands of years ago before the Void Century. I feel as though Emu would absolutely have his hands on this brainwashing technology and be able to use it to affect the whole world. Now, one of the main gripes I've had with the idea of the Void Century in the first place is that there must be some people who know what happened, right? The poneglyphs exist, and giants, who are going to be present in our next arc we head to, Elbaf, should be able to know it because some giants are able to live for hundreds and hundreds of years. Their parents or grandparents should have been alive during the Void Century and have memories of this. But the more I think about this memory erasure idea, the more I like it, because that would in turn make the giants, something that should know so much about the world, be just as unaware as everyone else, and leave them in this sense of disarray about what happened during this 100 years. I don't know exactly how Oda's going to write his way out of that, but I think that would be a really humanizing moment for these characters that are deemed as like these literally larger than life figures in the story. We've seen some very old giants, obviously like Yorl and Jarl from Big Mom's flashback, so I'm hoping we do see some old giants, maybe the one of them that survived. I forget which one it is, to be completely honest with you, but I hope we see one of them, and a great way to obviously connect it to Big Mom's flashback. Many people speculate that the last of the road poneglyphs we need to see what the One Piece actually is on Elbaf, which would make a lot of sense obviously since giants are seen as this more knowledgeable race because of how long they live. But if the poneglyphs were meant to be something similar to Vegapunk's note to himself, all of them would be out of the loop. All the stuff in the poneglyphs seems to be something that directly connects to the past, and especially the apology from Joy Boy has to be something that was done before the Void Century if everyone was truly supposed to forget what happened, just like how Vegapunk's note was written before he erased his memories along with Shaka and Pythagoras. I think that message from the past angle is such a great theme that One Piece has done time and time again, like I said, with the memory, inherited will, and so on. It's a great way of connecting this thing that should be a cry for help from the past into the present. And that's essentially what all the poneglyphs are. A cry for help from the past, hoping that someone will eventually be able to take out who caused this memory wipe. And instead of it being York, it's Emu. And the one thing I really wanted to bring up is that I think Emu specifically placed Marie Joie at the top of the world because this would be the greatest vantage point for people to see this ability to brainwash them. Now, when I first read this chapter, the panel that shows Vegapunk getting his memory erased was really interesting to me because it's a half and half, black to white, completely shown from his point of view, from what I could assume. And I personally interpreted it as him closing his eyes and then the light shining, and that's what causes the memory to be erased. However, this could just as easily be the opposite, where the memory erases at the beginning and it's all darkness, and then he wakes up to see the light. I'm going to go with him seeing the darkness to seeing the light because this perfectly aligns with a lot of the depiction of the celestial dragons in the story. I think that would be a great way to show that the light that Emu and the celestial dragons and the 20 kings that unite the world is actually darkness, ignorance. Luffy and Blackbeard being the obvious candidates for the darkness and the light would make it a really great moment for Emu, clouding their memories and ensuring that everyone who lived over these past 100 years wouldn't even know what happened. And I think taking Emu's character in this direction makes perfect sense, since this obviously would be the only way to ensure that people forget about Joy Boy, who would be encouraging people to follow the sun god Nika, because how perfect would it be to have a sun god's legacy be erased by a weapon of darkness? And I think it would be really cool because the one thing that would be able to block it out possibly that's even brighter is the sun god. Perhaps the people who look to the sun at that point in time were able to stay clear and have their memories because they stared at the sun. And if the sun is connected to how their memories were able to stay around, I think that would be a great through line. And this might be a reach, but I wanted to add this post editing because I thought the idea was kind of cool. Now, the One Piece opening for Egghead right now, Us, is really great, really well directed. And I thought that maybe this could be sort of a deeper layer as to what could have happened during the Void Century. Now, at the very end of the opening, we see the Straw Hats gazing towards the end of the Grand Line with this big star in the distance, obviously emblematic of the treasure that they're searching for at the end. But as I said, this is a very well directed opening, so I thought, okay, what if there's another layer to this? I was possibly thinking, what if the star at the end was this sort of blinding light that Emu used to make everyone forget about the past 100 years? And this would make a lot of sense in my opinion because the blinding light is directly related to not knowing the past, and the One Piece is directly related to knowing the past. So I thought this would be a pretty cool connection. Just wanted to add this in post-editing, like I said. Didn't think it was too important to include in the main video because it's just speculation on the anime stuff. Curious what you think of that as well. This memory erasure thing, which is done in a flashback for a noble cause, will be returning to the story in a very, very bad vindictive way through Emu and Marie Joie. Hopefully you enjoyed. Take care and have a good one.